We're going to model our second part, and this part is a little more advanced. This part right here, I can see that it is 1, 2, 3 blocks wide, has an overall width of 2.25. It has a height of 2 blocks, so 1.5, and it has a depth of 1.5, or 2 blocks. I'm going to try to do this with the least number of extrusions. As I looked at the back side, I can see that I have this shape right here. It's almost like an L, but we've added one extra block. So we're going to create that shape first and do an extrusion. After doing that, I'll have to add this block on the front. So a quick front view will show me the shape that I need to make. Let's go ahead and begin our sketch, our new part file. New, standard.ipt part file, create. Start sketch or right-click New Sketch. I'm choosing the XY plane. We're going to go ahead and use the line tool just to show a different tool on this part instead of the 2-point rectangle. Choose line, and I'm going to begin at the origin. We said that the height was 1.5. I'll type that in. Now, before I can select, for those of you that are in geometry, or even if you will take geometry, this is like a construction where we've got a set radius to work with, a distance, but I still have the freedom to move it around and follow the path of a circle or an arc. We obviously want this to be vertical. Right here I noticed a little gray box, and that box is showing me a vertical constraint. I'm going to left click right there to lock it in. That now has been constrained to be vertical since I selected while that gray box was appearing. Next, we want to come over 2.25. And again, after typing that in, my distance has been fixed, but I can still rotate. Right here, it kind of snaps. I get the little gray box that shows a coincident constraint, and this constraint is going to be perpendicular. Next to the original segment, the line segment that I first drew, notice there is an upside down T, and that T means perpendicular. So in this position right near here, if I were to left click, I would be getting a coincident constraint of perpendicular, which is what I want. Next segment, it's going to be that part that stuck out a little bit to the right. It needs to come down 0.75. And again, I've got, after setting my distance or my length, I have the freedom to move this around. I'd like it to be vertical. This shows a coincident constraint again. And it shows, if you look on the underside of the second segment, we have the upside down T. So we are perpendicular to the previous segment, which is what I want. And I will continue this all the way around until it's closed. So next a 0.75 segment. And again, I want this to be perpendicular to the previous segment. Notice the upside down T. Left click, come down, 0.75, constrain to be perpendicular, and then back, the last one, I'll just coincident constrain it to the original point. I'm done with my line tool. I can right click and say OK, and finish sketch. Now we need to add our depth dimension through the extrusion tool. I can press E as a shortcut for extrude. We want this to be 0.75 inches, but we'll leave it at 1 inch for right now, or let's even make it bigger. What if we accidentally typed in 0.75 after the 1? I'm going to do this just to show how to fix a mistake later. Let's pretend like we didn't realize what we had just done, and we continued on. A quick reminder of the part we're trying to build. My front top right view shows me that we've got that shape, and we've got this extra block, 0.75 in all 3 dimensions sticking out. So right here in this bottom right corner, we want to add that block. So I want to create a new sketch to extrude on this face. With that face highlighted, I will right click and say New Sketch. I'll go ahead and use the 2-point rectangle this time. And starting in this bottom corner, I'll constrain it to that corner. We'll make our width 0.75 and our height 0.75. And hit enter. I'm done with the rectangle tool, right click and say OK. Again, E for extrude. And it's asking for a profile. This is called the feature window. I'm trying to create a new feature. And profile is selected. And over here I can choose a profile. After having sketched onto that plane, that surface, this box, it left this profile as well as the other profile that remained from inside that face. The profile I'd like to extrude is this square. So we'll choose that. It's guessing on my distance and we'll correct it to be 0.75 and hit OK. Now, after that, thinking that you were done, you might realize that this looks out of proportion. Over in the browser, you can expand and look at the extrusions and the sketches that you used to create. If I look at this first sketch, I can notice my dimensions of 1.5, 2.25, and 0.75s. They all look correct. When I highlight over the extrusion, that adds depth to that first sketch, and I can see that that is where my mistake was made. I can right-click on extrusion, and I could either edit the sketch, which we thought was okay, or edit this feature. I'll choose Edit Feature, and it gets me back to my feature window where I was able to adjust the depth. And there's my mistake. I accidentally added 0.75 behind the 1 instead of deleting the 1 first. So we will fix that, make it 0.75, and hit OK. It automatically adjusts that extrusion. This block stays connected to the front face, and now we're good. I'd like this to be my green part. If for some reason you have any trouble with getting the color to work out right, choose the part in the browser, and then with it selected you can go and edit some features. Right here where it says generic, that's the material. I'm going to go ahead and make it a plastic material, ABS plastic, just to show you that you can change material. And then here, I think because of the zoom setting it's not showing up, but usually I get another color wheel next to this. I'm going to hit this drop down and I get this with, looks like a little glass, and I can adjust. And on my wheel I'm going to choose green, and I can also adjust the shade of the green within this little box. I can move that around and hit the green check mark when I'm okay. Lastly, make sure you use your appropriate view. You set your appropriate view for the home or in the front. Right now that's my front view, and that's my front right top, which I'm okay with. So I'll save it here and be ready to move on.